Hello, and welcome to another episode of Umineko no Naku Koro ni Alliance of the Golden Witch. Episode 8, I believe. We're here, we're back. And, as always, content warning. Content warning for child abuse, bullying, character deaths, detailed descriptions of gore and body horror, mentions and discussion of suicide, misogyny, and some slightly skeevy comments here and there. The kind you might expect from a teenage boy in the 80s. I need to adjust that, I think, because there are some parts that we've, that we won't be having to deal with anymore. That we got past, and there might... I'll have to add some stuff for episode 5, but that's still a ways away. This is a long episode. On the last episode we did, there wasn't a whole lot that happened. Mostly it was part of the family theorizing while inside a dungeon, because they are trapped by Kinzo, who is apparently very much alive. Who would have thought? And the cousins were informed, and that's kind of, they know what happened to their family. And the last thing that we ended on was Kinzo setting up a test for all of the grandchildren, the 4 cousins, and whoever wins or passes this test becomes the new head of the family. So that should be interesting. Hey Chiester, welcome to the stream. I almost forgot the word for stream. How are you doing? Let's see, where did we leave off? It was here. I'm a professional streamer. I don't know what that word means. Oh, you just got out of work? I hope you had a good day. And that you can, take it easy now. Now that your work day's over. So I believe today we'll be delving into the 12 years later part with Ange, who is basically on a sort of soul-searching journey to find out what really happened 12 years ago when her family left and basically never came back. I need to make a small audio adjustment on my end. There we go. Oops. Alright. The clinic that Nanjo had opened and later passed on to his son still existed on Nijima. This aged doctor was Nanjo's son, but the atmosphere about him was very different. I am truly sorry to say this after you have come all this way, but I have nothing in particular to tell you. Nanjo's son said that very indifferently. After the accident on that island was taken up by the broadcasts in a most indiscreet manner, even my father, who was Mr. Ushiromiya's doctor and friend, was focused upon by many with a wholly regrettable interest. All of it was without proof, and they even managed to defile all of my father's previous achievements. I still feel a great deal of resentment because of that. I think that's understandable. The same thing happened to me. I had to put up with it constantly since I was 6. True. My apologies. The doctor finally remembered that Ange was also a victim who had been exposed to the same curious eyes as he had been. In that case, you can probably understand why I don't want to have anything to do with that incident. That was an unfortunate accident. The only ones who want to make a fuss about it being a crime are those irresponsible TV shows and magazines. I am more than fed up with their attitude. Nanjo had been bathed with attention for being one of Shiromiya Kinzo's few friends. Because of that, there was probably an aggressive and persistent rush among the witch hunters and the press to use Nanjo's son as well. a surviving relative, as a source of information. The doctor went on and on, criticizing the press indignantly. I really understand how you feel. For a person like me who was observed even in her personal life, and whose privacy, likeness, and even human rights might have been violated. It's really easy to pick up on the anger of someone in your position. And for that very reason, I want to know, more than anything else, what in the world happened in the incident that so thoroughly ruined my life. So I came here. I'm a related party, just like you. Not a magazine columnist or an interviewer. Please don't get the wrong idea. I didn't come to do this for fun. Quit looking down on me. If we're gonna argue over whose life was most screwed up by that incident, you're no match for me. Ange spoke sharply. The doctor, who hadn't imagined that he would be talked back to in such a forceful manner, couldn't help but fall silent. From Ange's perspective, the doctor really was whining over nothing. She really didn't want to be looked down upon. It was about time to let him understand how many days had passed for her before arriving on this island. The doctor realized that he'd said something wrong and remained silent for a while, looking uncomfortable. I know it's probably painful to remember what happened at the time, but if there's anything you do know, please tell me no matter what it is. Of course, I'll keep quiet about it. I visited here today to bring some resolution to my life. I'm 18. That incident took away 12 years of my life, and it'll probably keep on taking. Since that day when I was 6 years old, I've remained shut away in darkness. Are you saying that, despite that, I still don't have a right to know? No. How rude of me. It seems that since all the others who came were ill-natured folk, I instinctively put up my guard. I apologize for my rudeness. I understand. If you'll swear not to breathe a word of this to anyone, I'll tell you everything. Thanks, Doctor. Then, if you would, please tell me anything you can. As you know, my father was not only Mr. Ushinomiya's head physician, but his friend through the game of chess. That relationship was very long, stretching back to the time Mr. Ushinomiya moved to Rokkenjima. For some reason, I cannot pronounce Mr. and then follow it up with Ushinomiya. I don't know why. So I stumbled a little bit. Just how close were they? Very close, it seems. It seems that their connection through chess led my father to stay at Mr. Ushinomiya's mansion quite often. Although I may not be one to talk, Mr. Ushinomiya was extremely moody. And my father was an exceedingly magnanimous man who excelled at interacting with humans like him. It's not hard to imagine that he was a rare friend for the isolated Mr. Ushinomiya. That day was the day of the family conference. At the Ushinomiya family conference, the inheritance and how it would be distributed were rigorously discussed, making it almost like a financial conference. Which means Dr. Nanja must have gained a trust so great that he was asked to attend even that, right? My father was a simple doctor, so I cannot imagine that he was in a position to advise on the distribution of wealth for a massively rich family like the Ushinomiya family. He was most likely called there to assist with Mr. Ushinomiya's health, because it was not at its best at the time. As Kinzo's close friend, I'm sure my father would have kept his mouth shut, and that he was trusted not to leak the secrets of the family conference. Wasn't Ushinomiya Kinzo in very bad health at the time? Were there any medical charts left behind? Perhaps he brought the medical charts with him on the day of the accident. I'm afraid to say that the entire folder of Mr. Ushinomiya's medical charts has been lost. He was my father's patient, so I do not know the details. Around the time of the incident, did anything strange happen? Yes, there is one thing. However, it seems exceedingly likely to invite misunderstandings, so I very much do not wish to discuss it. What is it? Please, tell me. For a while, the doctor beat around the bush. But after saying that much, he wouldn't be able to fool Ange by dodging the subject. He eventually gave in, and after making Ange swear herself to secrecy again, told her. The truth is, several days after that accident, I received something by mail at my home. By mail? It was very curious. The sender was made out to be me, but I had no memory of it. Someone had faked my name and sent it. The destination was Rebun Island in Hokkaido. Excluding the northern territories, it is at the northernmost tip of Japan. The recipient was apparently a resident on Rebun Island, but the name was my father's. However, it seemed that there was a problem with the destination address, so it was stamped as address unknown and returned to the sender, me. It was truly a strange tale. Nanjo-san's name was written as the sender. However, he said that he hadn't mailed the letter. In short, that meant someone had faked his name and sent it. The destination was Nanjo Terumasa on Hokkaido's Rebun Island, but the lot number written on it didn't exist, so the local post office had been unable to deliver it and instead sent it back to the sender, Nanjo's son. What was inside? I do ask that you keep silent about this. It is extremely troublesome to me as well, and even so, I cannot throw it away. The doctor stood up and faced a bookshelf. There was packed a group of dictionaries that could only have been ornamental, meant to make it very clear that the owner was an intellectual. When he pulled several volumes out from there, a large brown envelope peeked out from behind them. He took that out and tossed it onto the desk. It had been carefully sealed with cellophane tape, and its faded color and dryness made it clear that it had been sealed 12 years ago. I ask most solemnly for your silence on this matter. Being so persistent that it was annoying, the doctor removed the seal with a paper knife. Then, when he tilted the envelope, an already open mail envelope spilled out. The envelope had a weight to it, hinting that there was something other than a letter inside. The recipient was certainly Nanjo Terumasa. Just seeing that was a huge shock. Following that incident, Nanjo's corpse had not been found, and he had eventually been treated as dead after going missing under extraordinary circumstances. And despite that, this letter addressed to a Nanjo in Hokkaido existed. One could almost take this as a sign that he had faked his own death and escaped to Hokkaido. Was Dr. Nanjo really in Hokkaido? Or else, was there another person with the same first and last names in Hokkaido? If my father had somehow escaped from the accident and lived on in Hokkaido, that would have made us of his family very happy, regardless of the circumstances. I also thought of that possibility at first. However, the envelope's destination address does not exist. In short, this envelope was mail that had no way of reaching him. Is there a possibility that the sender miswrote the correct address? Of course, I cannot deny it. However, judging from the residence's house number, I find that hard to believe. Hokkaido, Rebun Island, Rebun County, Rebun City. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Up until Rebun City, it's fine. But I just couldn't wipe away the feeling that the sequential number after it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 was a little insincere. It felt like a fake number that some kid had made up. They probably wrote a nonsense number that clearly didn't exist. I think it's natural to assume that, from the very beginning, this envelope was sent to a non-existent resident to which it had no chance of being delivered. If the destination address doesn't exist, mail is generally returned to the sender. But even in the case of an incomplete address, the local post office will often courteously, and to the best of its ability, research to find whether the sender's intended destination exists. When they still can't find it, the mail is sometimes returned after an investigation of several days. It seemed that the same thing had happened with this envelope, and the stamp was postmarked on October 3rd. It was postmarked on Nijima. Nijima was a long way away from Rebun Island. On top of that, the destination was also nonsensical. It had taken more than a week for the mail to be returned. In other words, there was probably a high chance that having the envelope returned to the sender after an unfixed amount of time had been the goal from the very beginning. Why do something like that? Even before asking what it was that had been sent, this envelope was already wrapped in mystery. Hey Vape, welcome to the stream. I will save right now. Thank you for reminding me. I haven't been going that long, but still. I will actually take this chance to very quickly go grab some water, because I forgot. I'll be right back. I'll actually put some music on, so you don't have to listen to a ticking clock the whole time. BRB. Alright. Sorry about that. Also, hey Vape, how are you doing? There we go. And inside it? Go ahead. After getting the doctor's permission, I tilted the already opened envelope. From the inside came a small folded letter and a small key with a number plate attached. Then, a magnetic card slid out. A112 was engraved on the key's number plate. I didn't know what it meant. The magnetic card was pitch black and had gold characters engraved in it. Members was written in English. The jet black, gold-lettered card design made it feel like something very high class. But of course, I didn't have a clue what kind of card it was just from that. I unfolded the letter. Nice, enjoy your meal. Its contents were extremely brief, and only the following was written. 07151129. Also written was the name of a certain massive bank known throughout Japan, as well as the words Central Branch. That was all. And this is... It's a card, a key, and a pin for a safe deposit box. And it wasn't a normal safe deposit box either. It was an unsettling one, which was apparently reserved only for special clients. After he finished putting his affairs in order following his father's funeral, he had visited the bank. Pin and key and card. There was no doubt that something of great importance was kept there, and he had naturally been curious about what it might be. At first, he hadn't known what to do. The card wasn't something he'd owned in the first place. When he mustered up his courage and showed the card to a bank clerk, he was then switched to a clerk of clearly high status, and was guided to a large vault on the 4th basement. The security on the way there was strict. The doctor had himself stored valuable items such as real estate transcripts in safe deposit boxes before, but this was something on a whole different level. Unlike the procedure with the deposit box I had been using, with this system, as long as you had a card, the PIN, and the key, you didn't need to have your identity confirmed. But anyway, I was frightened at how imposing that secure vault was, and I wondered what kind of shady objects might await me that had to be stored in a place like this. And then, when I passed the card through the reader, I was asked to input the PIN. And after that 8-digit number was input and authenticated, I was permitted access to the vault. It was an incredible scene. A world like something from a sci-fi movie. The massive, dimly lit silver room was covered with doors to safes. He had entered that room along with the clerk. It seems that as soon as the card was read, the vaults he had a right to were determined, so that safes he could open were lit with a green light, while those he couldn't open were lit with the red one. A112 was one of the safes that were marked. By the way, there were several other safes marked with a green lamp besides that one. I think there were at least 20. There might even have been more in the other corner. In any event, I only had the key to A112. I had no way of checking the contents of the other safes. As the clerk watched, the doctor had unlocked and opened the safe. When he did, a safe drawer like a large cabinet had opened, and an expensive-looking duralumin case peeked out. I have never seen that word. I have seen this word before because it's in the novel, and I've read this before. Still, never said that out loud before. That case was carried into a separate room where, for the first time, the clerk left, and he was introduced to the contents. And the contents were cash. Cash? How much? I have heard that a pack of 1 million yen in fresh banknotes is precisely 1 centimeter thick. Since those were packed tightly into a duralumin case of such a size, there was probably 100 million in total. I don't know, because I didn't count. I didn't even touch it with my hands. I realized at once, this was dangerous money. It isn't normal to store a whole 100 million yen in cash in a case in a safe like that. It's much easier to deal with if you put it into an account and turn it into numbers. When someone is unable to do that, then it's clear that there's something wrong with that cash. My mind went blank and I instantly realized that I mustn't get involved. So you didn't use it at all? Correct. I locked it back up just as I'd found it, returned it to the original safe, and left. I've thought about throwing away that key and card, but I don't know what will happen. For that reason, I've been hiding it in the back of this bookcase for a full 12 years. I still do not know what kind of money that was. Could I borrow this envelope? No. Please just view it here. Understood. Then, if you'll excuse me, there's something I want to investigate. Yeah, it's duralumin. I keep also wanting to say aluminium, but I guess it's similar to that. I'm gonna Google that when I finish reading this stuff. I took One-chan's grimoire from the knapsack I had set down. Then I opened to the page with the paragraph Beatrice had written to One-chan and compared the handwriting on both. There was no mistake about the characteristic handwriting. The one who had sent this 100 million yen in cash was Beatrice herself. But what is it? Something's bugging me. What is it? What could it be? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got something like that in the mail. Hey Ma, where'd you put that? The same envelope and contents had been sent to Kumasawa's son, who had once lived with her. But he had been very busy in the days since, and seemed to have forgotten about it while running around all over the place. However, its strange contents had apparently stayed in his memory, and he remembered it as soon as Ange mentioned it to him. After a bit of a wait, his thin-lipped wife found the envelope, complaining that he always forgot where he put things right away. The modus operandi for the sender and recipient was the same as Nanjo's son's. The sender was made out to be Kumasawa's son, and the recipient was Kumasawa Chiyo. And the destination address was in the Okinawa Prefecture. Okinawa Prefecture, Yaeyama County, Yonaguni City, 1234567. Yonaguni Island was at the westernmost tip of Japan, and the lot name was the exact same sequential number that had apparently been chosen without much care. Now it was certain. This envelope was definitely sent with the goal of having it be returned to the sender. Its contents were exactly the same. A letter with the pin and the bank's main branch written on it. A magnetic card. A key with an attached number plate. The inscription on the number plate was A113. The number right after the one on the key that had been sent to Nanjo. Most likely, inside the vault was the same kind of duralumin case, packed with 100 million yen in cash. I get the feeling my dead mother sent it to me from beyond the grave. Don't really get what's inside, and it's creepy, so I just left it alone all this time and totally forgot about it until today. So, you know what this is, girl? Could it be that the same kind of thing came to your place? Huh. What is it, Ange-sama? Is it a headache? A headache? Sorry, my head hurts. I've got it. I know. What do you mean, you know? You don't mean... This envelope came to your place too, Ange-sama. I remembered. A strange envelope was also sent to me 12 years ago. After losing my entire family, I was depressed. But it was a really strange thing to come in the mail, so I still had a faint memory of it. It was a strange letter which I had no memory of sending, but which had me as the sender. I forget the destination address, but the named recipient had been Ushinomiya Rudolph, my father. I remember how disturbed I was when I got a letter I thought was from father, opened it up, and found a key and a card that I didn't really understand. I felt let down and threw it away somewhere, I think. Where did I put that envelope? I probably lost it somewhere in the chaos that followed. By now, I have no way of checking its contents. However, I have a general idea. I'm sure the contents were the same. Without a doubt, there had been a key, a card, and a note with a pin inside the envelope. Beatrice... What was she trying to do here? So, did she hand out this stupid money to all the surviving relatives? I won't forgive her for mocking them even after their deaths. Ange... Sakutaro acted nervously. As I looked at his worrying face, my agitation began to cool off bit by bit. I'm sorry. My hatred of Beatrice isn't anything new. I was just surprised and angry to find out that I had a connection with the witch already, at the age of 6 on that day. For the past 12 years, I've been constantly enslaved by Beatrice-sama's curse. This might be proof of that curse. But please, hang in there. Breaking through that was supposed to be part of the goal of this journey. I can't read it. That's right. Just letting the blood rights to my head won't get me anywhere. Gotta think calmly. What's going on? What's the meaning of handing out 100 million yen to the relatives? Is she trying to provoke us? Damn that Beatrice.
Ange, calm down.
Asakutaro buried his head in my stomach. He urged me to stay calm. I took another deep breath and started thinking. I wonder if this envelope was sent to support the theory that Beatrice was behind that crime. It was postmarked right before the family conference, and it was intentionally set up that it would be sent back after some time.
They wanted it to arrive after the incident. Is that it?
Yeah. That's what it implies. But it raises a few questions. Why use such an uncertain method? Uncertain? Yes. After all, no one could even guess at how many days it would take for the mail to return before you use this trick. Normally, you couldn't even guess at the amount of time it would take for the receiving post office to do their research, determine that the recipient was unknown, and return it.
Yeah, now that you mention it, it'd be more dependable if they just sent an arrival date and mailed it that way.
Maybe, but still. If they mailed it the day before, then no matter how quickly it returned, it would probably arrive Monday or later. I wonder if they wanted to make it seem like a letter from the dead. A letter from the dead, you say? You're right. It surprised me, and it made me feel bad. Some mail with my dead family's name written on it, on the outside, in large letters. It was thrown into the mailbox with an ominous label attached. However, it doesn't really make sense to me. I would have mailed it to arrive on the specified day. I just can't understand why someone would allow the uncertainty of it arriving on a day other than the one they imagined.
Idiot. But it really does sound like Beato to me.
Huh? You know about Beato?
Well, I only talked with her a little. Still, I can pretty much accept that Beato would do something like this. Can't you imagine that happening too, Maman?
Beato likes pranks like this, right? Yeah, that might be true. I wouldn't put it past Beatrice-sama to try a vicious prank like a letter from the dead.
No, that's not all. Beatrice would find it more interesting to do it through an uncertain method, instead of one that was absolutely certain.
She would find an uncertain method interesting? I remembered Maria One-chan's diary. It had described playing with Beatrice very often. During those times, Beato sometimes played pranks on the adult relatives with Maria. But those pranks always had a touch of witch aesthetics. Which was that they were more interesting when they were uncertain. One day, Maria One-chan and Beato decided to use a wind-up mini-car she had brought for a prank. It was a popular toy at the time, and if you made the mini-car back up, it would wind up the spring in the tires, and when you let go, it would race forwards. They had wound up that mini-car and set it behind a milk jug. In other words, the prank was that, if you lifted the milk jug, the mini-car would jump forwards and surprise whoever did it. Hoping that someone would get caught in this prank, One-chan and Beato had watched the adults from the shadows for their whole tea time. They were looking forward to seeing someone get caught by it, but no one moved the trapped milk jug, and the trap ended in a misfire. When Onea-chan had then muttered, "We should have put it somewhere where it would have definitely caught someone," Beato apparently said this: "The most interesting and thrilling traps are those where you don't know who will get caught, or even if anyone will get caught at all. It's probably true that you wouldn't get this kind of excitement from a trap that would certainly go off. Similar accounts occurred in multiple places, making it possible to guess that the witch called Beatrice had a fickle character and loved a random thrill. A fickle person is very hard to deal with. I can't spin the chessboard around to find out what that witch from 12 years ago was planning." As Ange examined these, her gaze darted from place to place. Then she suddenly showed interest in the wall. There, several framed pictures were hung. Many of them were commemorative photos from when the relatives of the Kumasawa family gathered, or went somewhere to play. And Kumasawa was in several. And she still wore a smile that made it so you could almost hear her lighthearted ho-ho-ho laugh. "It's part of my distant memory, but I definitely remember that she was this sort of cheerful old lady." "Did you notice anything different about Kumasawa-san in the days leading up to the incident?" "Nope. She looked the same as ever. The family conference put her on edge, so she was always grumbling about how tough it was." "What's this?" Among the several frames, there's one that had something other than a picture of people in it. It was a picture of an enlarged relief of a door from a Western-style house or something. You couldn't see any interesting subject in particular, which actually bugged me a bit, as I wondered why anyone had gone to all the trouble of taking it. As I got closer, I realized that some characters had been written with a pen. "Oh yeah, that's a photo I got when Mother's belongings were distributed. I think it probably has something to do with that Legend of the Gold thing." "The witch's epitaph, you mean?" It was whispered that it pointed out the location of the hidden 10 tons of gold. So, Kumasawa-san tried to solve it too. But this isn't the epitaph. It's the first time I've seen it. There was an arch above the Western-style door, and that's where the relief was. English words were engraved there, and that seemed to be what the picture was focused on. The pen writing appeared to be a translation into Japanese. "This door is opened only at a probability of a quadrillion to 1. You will be blessed only at a probability of a quadrillion to 1. I don't recognize it. Nothing like this ever showed up in the epitaph or One-chan's diary. In Mother's belongings, there were quite a few photos and notes that looked like her trying to solve the riddle of the epitaph. Mother was actually surprisingly fond of that kind of thing. And there was that rumor that 10 tons of gold bars were hidden somewhere. It's no surprise she got so absorbed by it. In both Marie One-chan's diary and in her grimoire, there was a description of the witch's epitaph. It had talked about how it was a ceremony to open the door to the Golden Land, Beatrice's resurrection ceremony, Beatrice's succession ceremony. On and on. Maybe the most interesting one was the last part, about it being a succession ceremony. According to Beatrice, if you were able to solve the witch's epitaph, you would receive not only the 10 tons of gold and the Ushiramiya family inheritance, but her own magical power and name, as well as the title of Golden Witch. Among the Ushiramiya family household at the time, the witch's epitaph was thought of as a difficult quiz, which the family head, Kinzo, had arranged for to choose his successor. But, with the mariage sorcière interpretation, the questioner was Beatrice herself, and she had posed the question in part to choose her successor. There were slight discrepancies in the details of the two interpretations. Either way, its ominous contents brought to mind a bloody serial murder, and both of the message bottles drew a tale of a crime following that pattern. If I could solve the witch's epitaph now, 12 years later, I wonder if I could expose some plot made back then. I tried to solve it many times myself, but I never did have a clue what it meant. It seems that many witch hunters tried as well. I also found theories like the La Plata theory and the Inora theory in certain books. However, neither of these theories were conclusive. Are there any other materials? I think so, but they're all split up between my siblings. I don't have a clue who has what. Sorry. Just reading this English text that Kumasawa-san took a picture of, it gives the impression that this was a forbidden door that was rarely opened. But where in the mansion is it, I wonder? Judging by the lighting, it looks like it's outside. I wonder if Kumasawa-san thought that the gold might be hidden in there. Who knows? Either way, I do wonder where in the Rokanjima mansion it was. I had to say it, but there wasn't enough money in Mother's bank account to make me think she found the gold. She probably didn't find it after all. The Golden Witch, Beatrice, gave 10 tons of gold to Kinzo, which meant that the witch was the true owner of the gold. Beatrice was the owner of all the vast fortune of the Ushinomiya family. The witch holding this vast wealth had massacred the humans on the Rokanjima that day, sending large amounts of money to the surviving relatives like it was a game. Like hell, it's a letter from the dead. This is a desecration of the dead. I was once again convinced. When my family died on that island that day, they didn't go to heaven. They're being trapped by the witch even now, and are being desecrated and tormented for all eternity. The last place Ange visited was a store in the region between the housing district and the retail stores, with a signboard saying, Marufuku Sleep Shop. Hey Lulu, welcome to the stream. How are you doing? I'm glad to hear the weather's good. Or bad? I mean, you said good, so brain must be good. There lived a man who had been the boat captain of the ferry boats at Okanjima at the time. Even he, who had once lived as a man of the sea, had retired after contracting a serious illness, and was now taken care of at the house of his son and his son's wife. I remember it very well. You were still about this small. Look how you've grown. And this must have been very tough on you. I know very well how you must feel. The former boat captain was in such high spirits that you couldn't really tell why he had retired in the first place. It's a cyclone? Well, I'm glad you're enjoying the rain. Stay safe. We don't really get those where I live, so I don't know what that's like at all, but I hope it's okay. His memories seemed clear too, and he could remember the events of more than a decade ago well, apparently even about how Ange had been at the time. The way he chatted on was very helpful for Ange, but at the same time, he also remembered the final family conference very well. And the fact that he remembered even details like Battler's fall madness on the boat was actually painful for her. It had been so back then as well, but even now, there was no public way to cross to Rokanjima. It was necessary to make an individual request to an owner of a boat to make the voyage. I've been unable to arrange for a boat to Rokonjima, so if he refused me, such a voyage would probably become hopeless. I get ya. It won't be easy to find a boat eager to go to that island. By now, there are even some who call it by its old name, Akuchikishima, instead of Rokonjima. It's understandable why the sailors around here would turn down your request. From the start, fishermen had feared Rokonjima as an island of misfortune. And because of that incident 12 years ago, this fear had reached a peak. They respected the sea, feared it, and revered it. There are almost no sailors who would try to take a boat to the cursed island. Because of that, most of the witch hunters were unable to cross over to Rokonjima, and were limited to taking a trip around the island. Ironically, this had caused the sense of mystery surrounding Rokonjima to increase even more, which had resulted in the propagation of the bizarre witch stories they loved so much. Would you take me in your boat? Yep. They're supposed to give it back to me just for tomorrow. Though it seems its engine has been in a pretty bad mood lately. I'll knock it into shape. The former boat captain promised that tomorrow he would go back to his previous job, take his boat out to Rokonjima. Now my method of transport to Rokonjima is insured. This is probably all I can do on Nijima. All that's left is tomorrow. Rokonjima, I'll reach the final destination of a journey that stretches back 12 years.
Isn't that great? This way, it looks like you'll be able to go to the island.
It sure does. I'd heard that it would be hard to find a boat, so the boat captain's helpfulness really saved me. Although it may not be the same as it was for you, Ange-sama, I'm sure the incident 12 years ago has been a thorn for the boat captain as well, one that he still hasn't been able to pull out.
Really? Even the boat captain wasn't able to sort out his feelings this whole time.
That's probably true. If that guy had taken his boat out on October 5 as promised, there's a chance he could have saved a lot of people. If he hadn't been hesitant to go out just because of a little wind.
Really? You shouldn't say things like that. I'm sure that's pained the boat captain constantly until today.
Apparently, they truly had been right in the middle of a typhoon on October 5th. According to the boat captain, he had known for certain that they'd be trapped by the typhoon if they headed to Rokonjima on October 4th. But the family had been very persistent about the date of their conference, which had been determined beforehand. It was only natural. All of the relatives had been very busy at the time, and they came to the family conference only after arranging their schedules beforehand. It was probably a situation where they couldn't easily push it back to the next week just because a typhoon was approaching. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Stay indoors and don't change your schedule if there's a typhoon or a cyclone. Yeah, if something like that hit where I live, I'd be gone. It would just pick me up and whoosh, you know. I would be gone. I'm very light. I might have hollow bones, I don't know. You don't have a schedule? Fair. If you don't have a schedule to clear, you can go outside in a typhoon. Don't quote me on that. That is not responsible of me to say. I don't think that's how that works. Yes, right now, stay indoors in general. I had to go outside today, it was a little scary. I absolutely had to go, otherwise I wouldn't have gone. I could tie you up to something heavy, I just tie some bricks to my feet and it'll be fine. Yeah. Just mafia style, you know. Lit balloons, yes. Perfect. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, though. I don't want to become like a human balloon, that would be terrible. Okay, back to reading. It wasn't the boat captain's fault, but perhaps you could say that he wasn't so irresponsible that he could place the blame wholly on the typhoon. Certainly, just as these two said, there's no doubt that the boat captain had been dragging the events of 12 years ago along with him this whole time. And, by taking me, the last member of the Ushinomiya line, to the island, and bringing me back safely, he might be trying to find some resolution for his past. The boat's supposed to return just after noon. I'll guide you to Rokonjima after that, so we should arrive before evening. It's an island without electricity or lights. You won't be able to stay long. Will you be satisfied with the landing that short? There's nothing that would make me more satisfied by staying longer. I'm grateful just to have you take me there. Yeah, don't mention it. If I hadn't parted with my boat, I'd be able to guide you to the island as much as you liked without being stingy. It's not like I have a goal of doing something in particular on Rokonjima, so I'll be there during the evening. The evening, which straddles the two different worlds of day and night, seemed almost like a borderline between this world and the next. Or possibly 1998 and 1986. And it felt like the most fitting time to visit Rokonjima. It's not like I have anything in particular to do there. Just staying there for a few hours should be enough for me to find some closure. At that time, there was a small knock on the paper sliding door, and Amakusa stuck his head in, tapping his watch. I nodded back and told him about how I had succeeded in reserving a boat for tomorrow. That's great. It's about time for us to go. We're counting on you tomorrow, Captain. Sure, leave it to me. I've heard all about what you guys have gone through. I also watched the talk shows at the time, and was disgusted by the people who stirred up that incident just for fun. I'll help out any way I can. Thank you very much. Then, we'll see you noon tomorrow. Here. The fare for the boat. Ange took a wrapped wad of 10,000 yen bills from her pocket. The boat captain should have noticed its thickness as well, but he paid it absolutely no interest and shook his head. I'm grateful to you. This is a sign from the heavens. I've been given a final chance to take you to Rokonjima and bring you back safely. Now I'll finally be able to finish the final job Kinzo-san entrusted me with. So I'm grateful to you. I got more than enough money from Kinzo-san back then. I can't accept yours. Thank you very much. Captain Kawabata, best anything, by the way. He's great. And no, I've never seen a cyclone. They don't really happen here. It's just weird when you think about it, right? That happens in some places and not others. Weird. Anyway. Watch your step on the stairs. It's steep. I went down the steep staircase that was the exact opposite of accessible. It was getting hard to believe that there was actually a chest of drawers and a TV in the room upstairs. Most of the first floor was a bedding store, with many futons piled up on each other. We weaved our way through the cramped futon shop. After cautiously checking around outside, Amakusa dashed out first and started up the car. This is the proof that Wait, is to prove that what's awesome? Wait, that I'm awesome? That's just a theory, though. That's in blue. Alright. My grandchild's room is empty. I really wouldn't mind if you stayed there. As you see, we've got plenty of extra futons. Thanks a lot for the offer. But this way, even if the unexpected happens, you won't be bothered. I don't know the details, but it seems you've been caught up in a lot of trouble. There's a rumor that some suspicious people are searching for someone. That wouldn't happen to be you, would it? Who knows? Ange played dumb, but it looked as though the boat captain had guessed. I know how to read my name, I just don't know how to read in general. Don't worry about it. Reading? What's that? My job is to take guests to Rokonjima and bring them back again. That job was put on hold 12 years ago, and it still hasn't ended. So, thanks to you, I'll finally be able to finish it. So listen, let me finish this job, okay? Do you understand me? Yeah. It's not like I'm going there to die. But part of me does feel that if I could die on that island, I'd surely be able to go where my family is. I've finally become aware of it. I might have been planning to die on that island. I might have come all this way, heading towards the Rokonjima, in search of a place to die. The boat captain had guessed that as well. That's why he repeatedly told me not to die. Yeah, I won't die. I promise. After all, I'm still not sure if there's any reason why I need to go to Rokonjima. No, I'm sure there's a reason. Even if there isn't one for you, there is one for them. The island called you. That's why you came here. That might be true. I might have been called. I was called. For what reason? For them. Father, mother, Battler Oni-chan, and Marie-One-chan. Or maybe the Golden Witch, Beatrice. What is on Rokonjima? And what will I achieve? Even though tomorrow is finally almost here, I still haven't been able to understand my own mission. There was the sound of a car stopping in front of the store, and a short honk could be heard. Then I'll see you tomorrow. If you'll excuse me. Yep. Winding between the stacks of futons in the cramped store, I was about to go outside. Then my feet stopped. What is it? What is that? That? What? What are you talking about? Trembling all over, I pointed at it. But no matter how much the boat captain squinted, he noticed absolutely nothing in that direction that should have surprised me. That must mean... That must mean... Impossible. Why?
What do you... Ange, what does it mean? What's going on here?
I don't have a clue either. There's no way something that ridiculous... Is this magic? A miracle? Yeah, this is probably fate. Now I understand. This was my mission? Or do you... I don't have a clue what... Shaking, I pointed into the thin darkness inside the store and froze up. What is it? You see something there, don't you? I don't see anything. What is it you see? Thank you, Captain. Everything was fate. Even me visiting this place was fate. This is the mission and the purpose that I'm going to Rokujima for. Ange-san? What is it? Something wrong? I don't have a clue either. This girl just froze up while pointing into the darkness. Ange-san? You okay? What can you see? Can't you two see it? It's that, right there. Can't you see it? All I can see is a normal display case. There's no one there, right?
Ange, I don't know what's going on. Is this a dream? Magic? What is it? Huh? Ange?
Sakutaro lifted his face towards Ange. From his eyes slid a single tear. Ange-sama. I understand, One-chan. And Beatrice.
Yuri...
This is magic, isn't it? I forgot that nothing gets revealed in that bit. Nothing. If you don't know what Ange just found, I would love to hear what you think it is. If you have any ideas, I would love to hear it. If you don't know, that makes perfect sense, because I don't know how you could possibly guess. There's not... like, you're left hanging on purpose, you know, you're not supposed to know, but if you have like a hunch, I would love to hear it. It is backstory. There's that entire bit, just, if you're theorizing, right? That entire section with Ange doing research and stuff actually had a bunch of hints in them for the mystery, like a bunch, way more than I remember. That's okay, Lulu. I know that with your internet and stuff and doing other stuff that you've got a lot going on. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I remember Ange like running around talking to everyone. But yeah, same as you, Kat. None of it really clicked. But there's so many hints that if you're like really working on the theory and stuff, or your own theories, there's a lot there. A lot. A ring, paper, okay, that's interesting. Just, for the record, this is going to be really hard to guess. I'm just curious, that's all. Like, I'm not sure you're supposed to be able to solve it. It's not like a mystery for you to solve, it's more like you're left hanging with the suspense. Hmm. Interesting. And yeah, the boat captain's still like really healthy and stuff too, despite being retired. So that's definitely surprising. I think the first time I played the game, I was also like, that guy's gonna be dead. But man, what a good guy, right? What a nice man. Oh, actually, I can't say anything about that at all. I won't reveal where the hints are at all. That entire section had hints in them. I won't say any more than that. So for all you know, it could have gone either way. I was gonna say actually yes or actually no. Who knows? I'm not gonna reveal it. I am gonna drink some water. A test? Yes. Listen well. Once again, there was a call from Kraus to the guest house. And the message was that Kinzo wanted to hold a test to see if their grandchildren had the qualifications to become his successor. Lulu, your brain isn't supposed to be solid, I don't think. Well, technically brain mass is sort of solid. Just squishy. Anyway. Sorry. Focus. The head has said that his successor will not be one of his siblings. That he wants to pick from among his grandchildren. From Kraus's restrained style of speech, Jessica realized as his daughter that he was being forced to speak. And she was forced to realize that the hostages were being exposed to danger even now. And that if they refused this test, there was a possibility that the hostages would be harmed. Then, what should we do? Indeed. Hold on. Kraus put down the receiver, then looked at the grinning Kinzo on the other side of the bars. Kinzo gave his next order. Before the test, those not involved must be removed. Gora and Kumasawa are there, I believe. It will be a problem if they interfere with the test. Banish them from the guest house. Banish, you say? There should be a gardening storehouse in the rose garden. Lock Gora and Kumasawa in there. We'll begin from there. Tell them to do it immediately. My weapons will be watching. If they happen to do anything questionable, I'll instantly stop the test and execute all of you as sacrifices. I understand. Hello, Jessica. Listen closely to what I say. Kraus relayed the orders to lock up Gora and Kumasawa. What kind of test are you planning? It truly is a simple test. I only want my grandchildren to show me their resolve. Well then, I wonder what kind of results they'll show me. Looking disgusted, Kiria watched Kraus, who was talking with the children. I hate it, but for now we cannot refuse orders. In this dungeon, a feeble resistance won't amount to anything. If we provoke him too much and drive him into a position where he might kill us, there will no longer be any way to stop this murderer. For now, the only choice left is to obey his rules without agitating him, all the while waiting for an opportunity. However, if we continue to obediently follow his commands, the children might be attacked in this so-called test, and they might even lose their lives. Whether we feign obedience or try to resist, nothing will cause the situation to improve. Anyway, straining our eyes so that we don't let a single chance escape until the very end is the only resistance possible now. While telling herself this, Kiria watched over Kraus as he delivered Kinzo's orders. Kiria-san, let us be patient.
I understand. It's unfortunate, but all we can do right now is wait. If only we could do something about these bars, we'd be able to return to the mansion.
If only we could somehow get out of here. I'll try something. Kinzo-san, I have a request. What is it, my friend? We understand well that you want to test the children. It is fine for you to do as you desire. Without your power, the Shinomiya family might have been destroyed long ago. We truly understand why you want to carefully select the person who will take charge. Besides, that is what the family conference is all about. We won't get in your way. Your insight is useful. That's right, this is the family conference. The final family conference, where I will select my successor. And yet, Kinzo-san, it is far too cold here. That was the wrong voice. And yet, Kinzo-san, it is far too cold here. Since we won't interfere with your test, could you take us to a slightly warmer place? At Nanjo's words, the slight signs that Kinzo's mood had been improving were blown away. Nanjo was struck with a moment of silence as Kinzo gazed at him with dangerous eyes, as though appraising him.
Certainly, this place is cold. It's tough on an old body. Master, wouldn't it be alright if we moved them upstairs?
I cannot do that. Are you naive, Nanjo? So, by acting as though you'll skip this turn, you truly and splendidly advance your strategy? I'm not falling for that, you see? If you're freezing, why don't I line the floor with red-hot coals?
My apologies.
Virgilia tried to help out, but in the end, Kinzo would not comply. You two sure are obedient. If you felt like it, you could easily break these bars.
Even if we break them, nothing will come of it.
Of course. If you were to break these, it would mean the end of Goldsmith's game. All of you, as well as those humans in the guest house, would immediately become sacrifices for Kinzo's ceremony.
But surprisingly, you two might be the only ones, yes?
Perhaps only you two hold the power to break out of the situation, right? You want to reach the Golden Land, don't you? You must have many dreams you want granted, right? Hello, Gap. I love you. Gap, you mustn't provoke them. This is not your game. It is the Master's as well as Milady's game. What is it, Ronove? Oh, no, nothing. We were talking to the prisoners. Forgive us. Gap sent one final sneering smile at Kanon, then turned away. Kanon could only bite his lower lip and shake his fists.
Damn it. You did well. Good job hanging in there.
We're powerless. Because we're furniture.
That's right. We're powerless. However, furniture is sometimes relied upon, and even loved. Right now, we've only been stored away in the basement. Surely, one day, somebody will love us, because they'll rely on us. That's why, for now, let's ignore their provocation and bear with it. Okay?
I also need her. She's great. Father, I've ordered them to lock up Goda and Kumasawa in the storehouse. Very well. Hang up now. Chiester sisters, observe the grandchildren as they lock Goda and Kumasawa away. If they do anything suspicious, then in that moment, the selection test for my successor will be over. When Kinzo made his order, the Chiester sisters appeared behind him in a line.
Understood, sir. I will scout. 556 and 410 will cover both flanks. 545, you're on wide area surveillance. 000. 556 is... Ah, that's right. Sorry. She was a good kid. That's why I don't like them, yeah. Good people. Good people.
As in, I don't like good people. I get you. What are you doing, Chiester sisters? Follow my orders.
My apologies, sir. Then let us go observe. Move out.
The Chiester sisters erased their forms simultaneously. Nanjo and Kitty had witnessed the instants they appeared and disappeared, as if by teleportation. But they interpreted this as moving in and out of the darkness in a way that only looked like teleportation, and the two could do nothing but rub their eyes. Well then, I shall begin the preparations for the test. Ronove, Gap, I'm asking you to be the examiners. Virgilia, you'll watch these rats. After all, 2 of my furniture are here. Just in case, be on your guard. He glanced at Shannon and Connor. Tightly closing her eyes, Shannon gave a silent bow and answered wordlessly, avoiding any unnecessary actions.
Certainly. I'll be careful. Isn't this cold hard on your old body, Leon? Should I bring you a hot water bottle? Shut up. Go quickly. Yeah.
Well now, what a strange experience this game is. To have a test and examiners. I do hope this development entertains my lady.
Come, arise, goat attendants.
Virgilia began to call out into the darkness, and from that spot, 3 massive goat-headed attendants suddenly appeared.
Ah,
Beata's minions. How convenient. Plus, they seem so warm.
I see,
So you'll use them instead of a hot water bottle. In that case, wouldn't sheep have been better than goats?
You're the one wearing cashmere. They're very bright, but they faithfully follow orders and are quite dependable.
Yeah, the goats are incredibly buff in this version. Especially compared to literally all the other versions. They are enormous. Indeed. I'll leave it to you, my friend, Virginia. The rest of you follow me. With a dignified gesture, Kinzo fluttered his cloak. Following him were Ronove and Gap, as well as the 3 recently summoned goat attendants.
Hey, you 3 are supposed to wait here with me. Don't follow them.
The goats jumped in surprise and then came tottering back. Kiria, who had been watching stunned as all of this played out, couldn't help but snort.
What entertaining underlings. Goldsmith did not give you permission to speak.
She was probably embarrassed. Virgilia had spoken coolly, but Kitty saw through that, and for a little while, she couldn't restrain her muffled laughter. However, on the inside, Kitty was surprised at the number of people Kinzo had with him. After all, including Kinzo himself, at least 10 enemies had already been spotted. The dungeon they were currently locked in was supposedly underneath the hidden mansion called Kuodorian. Although this mansion had been whispered of, not even Kraus had known of its existence until today. Are there actually several facilities like this on Rokkenjima? Where many unknown henchmen that only Kinzo knows of hide? Just how many humans are on Rokkenjima, locked away by the typhoon? No, on the contrary. Were we the only ones under the impression that there were only 18 people on this island? Were we, who bickered over whether Beatrice existed or not, and worried about whether a 19th person existed or not, nothing more than the frogs in a well on this island? No, wait, not only that. By now, are there actually more people on the enemy's side than on ours? Just what the hell is going on? Witches, demons, magic. Are you telling us to believe in those? Are my eyes screwed up? Or is it my head? I think I'm losing it. A mass murder by magic. Demons forming and disappearing into thin air. Setting aside the enemy's numbers, how should we interpret the various things thrust before our eyes that cannot be explained with the common sense of our world? Kitty started to feel like she didn't know what was going on anymore. And while desperately battling the urge to abandon everything and give up, she grit her teeth and tried to hold on to her sanity. Obviously, Goda and Kumasawa were quite unwilling to be locked in the Rose Garden shed. But they were threatened that, if they resisted, the hostages' safety could not be guaranteed. It was fairly hard to get them to agree, but once they started thinking that their safety might actually be guaranteed if the key to the gardening storehouse was to be handed to them after being shut inside, and when it was decided that blankets and food would be carried in for them, they were finally convinced. Smart. This place is pretty chilly. I wonder how long we'll have to stay locked in here. It could be as late as Monday morning at the worst, so a full day and night. I really feel bad about doing this to you two. George and Battler cleared a space on the floor, then spread the blankets there. They also left the canned food, crackers, and other light snacks they had brought. It'll be hard for you guys to go until Monday with just this. If only we could make a trip to the kitchen. They said not to go anywhere we weren't told to. Sounds like we're being watched. Damn. I'm honestly sorry that we cannot be of any use. And these are the times that we are truly supposed to be at your sides. It can't be helped. More importantly, take care of Kumasawa-san. We don't know what might happen. If the going gets tough, I'd like you to play it by ear and come to the rescue. And more than anything, I want you to be safe. Yes, I understand. Please, be careful, everyone. Right now, the Master is taking human lives like they're pieces on a chessboard. Please, look out for yourselves. Goda stared at the floor, even now unable to believe what had happened as he remembered that atrocity in the dining hall. And he hung his head in shame at his failure to fully describe that terror. Thank you. Make sure you stay on your guard. You too, Kumasawa-san. Then you please take care as well. I don't have any idea what's going on anymore. Well then, we'll be off. Let's go, Battler-kun, Jessica-chan. Come on, you too, Maria-chan. Looking at the pitiful expressions on the imprisoned pair's faces, it got really hard to close the shutter. But I can't disobey. We're being watched. The shutter was brought down and locked. Then, George walked toward the small window on the side of the storehouse. At that side, there was a small latticed window that could only admit light and ventilation. It looked like something from a jail, making the two of them seem even more pitiable. But on the other hand, it would hopefully protect them from Kinzo and his subordinates. He opened the window and called out.
Are you okay? You aren't cold, are you?
We're okay. You've given us so many blankets after all. If we wrap ourselves up, we'll be just fine. I wish we could have brought them a kerosene stove or something. But it wouldn't have ventilation here. It'll probably be tough for them, but there's nothing we can do now. Hostages are being held against us. We can't disobey. Damn it. Have we managed to save Kitty and the rest somehow? Shh. They might be listening. Goda-san, here. It's the key to the shutter. Indeed. I'll hold on to it. Goda took the key, showed it to Kumasawa, and placed it in his own pocket. There's only one key to the garden shed's shutter. That key was being held by the ones locked up inside it. If the children had kept it, and had it stolen from them by some chance, that would do nothing but expose the lives of those in the shed to danger. And even with the key, the shutter could not be opened from the inside. Kinzo's demands were fulfilled this way. However, there was now no longer any way to open the shed from the outside either. This protected them. Kinzo had ordered that they be confined, and we could do nothing but trust that this cold, closed room would protect them. Jessica watched this while holding Maria's hand, then looked over the thickets in the pitch-black rose garden. Somewhere in this darkness, somebody was hiding, watching to see whether we obeyed orders or not. Of course, when we pointed our flashlights out there, no suspicious silhouettes appeared. But somebody was surely out there, hiding and watching. I was hit many times with an urge to scream at them, but I was able to hold that urge back through reason. The four children left the area, repeatedly looking back over their shoulders. The light from the faint light bulb in the gardening storehouse was seeping out slightly. I wonder if this insane incident will come to an end somehow, so that we can meet those two again. To George, who had closed the shutter himself, the resistance of the lock had made it feel as though he'd killed them with his own hands. But even so, we can't defy them. What's with this test? Damn geezer, don't screw with us. Killing Mom? Capturing Dad for that? I don't get it. I'll kill him.
It's okay, Jessica Ne-chan. There's nothing to be sad about.
Maria.
Soon, the witch will be revived. Soon, we'll be able to meet in the Golden Land. Ow.
Don't laugh indiscreetly like that. Seriously, a resurrection ceremony for a witch? Getting so many people involved? In delusions he should have just kept inside his head? That's gonna cost you, bastard. Let's return to the guest house. It'll be bad if we aren't there when Grandfather calls. Urged on by George, everyone began walking toward the guest house. At that moment, Jessica turned in a circle, facing towards the darkness of the rose garden, and roared. Hey! Someone's watching, right? Tell the old man. Tell him I'm gonna fucking kill him. Let's go. Of course, there was no reply, only the howl of the wind and rain. The children returned to the guest house, while fearing what was waiting for them up ahead. After they left, from the exact point in the darkness that Jessica had yelled at, 2 rabbit ears sprung up.
So sorry. They found me out. It's because you're too slow in the end. Pendragon-sama's gonna scold you. I'm sorry. Please don't tell Pendragon-sama. Be quiet. It was obviously just a bluff.
Goran Kumasawa's imprisonment confirmed. Mission complete. We'll report back.
Yay. Ow.
Do you want us all to suck on nothing but carrots and water because of collective responsibility? Let's go. Porten is such a troll. I don't know what the Yai was? Like what that, is that a reference? I don't know. I've never seen that before. Also, thank you, Lulu, for the save reminder. There you go. We have now saved. Also gonna drink some water. The fact that they were being watched certainly seemed to be true, because when they returned to the cousins' room, turned the lights on and laid down on their beds, the phone rang again. Earlier, Jessica had been answering the phone, seeing as this was her house, but now it was the eldest, George, who picked it up. This time, Kiria-san was on the other end of the line. George handed it to Battler out of consideration. Hello, Kiria-san? Is everything alright over there? Thanks for worrying. At the moment, we're all doing great here. Sorry, I've been ordered to refrain from idle chatter. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The fact that they were hostages still hadn't changed. Kinzo, or one of his subordinates, was listening in to the conversation. Battler restrained the urge to talk about other things and focused on what Kiria had to say. The test will be carried out by Jessica-chan, George-kun, Battler-kun, and Maria-chan, in that order. You'll each be summoned in turn, so until then, do not leave the room. When someone's called out, they'll head to their designated location alone. Battler repeated it out loud, so that the cousins listening in around him could hear. So it'll be Jessica, Aniki, me, and Maria in that order. And we've got to stay in that room until we're called, right? Got it. Maria too? Even a 9-year-old girl. What's the damn geezer trying to force us to do? That bastard. The fate of the Ushinomiya family rests in all of your hands. Do your best. Sure. Battler noticed the strange nuance in Kiria's words. Even without any blood connection, he could still understand thanks to the long-lasting bond they shared. At this point, it doesn't make sense to worry about the Ushinomiya family itself. That probably wasn't the message Kiria wanted to send. She probably meant, there's no way for us to escape from this dungeon, and we can only wait to be rescued. Our lives are in your hands. Something like that. Yeah, leave it to me. We don't know what kind of test it is, but no problem. I'll take it gladly. It's gonna be a serious test, right? Should we really go all out? Yes, it's a serious test. Grandfather truly does intend to test you all. It's It's useless. It's all useless. Some old fart on death's door is gonna give me a serious challenge. Let him spout nonsense after he gets in the coffin. I know he's there, so tell him this for me. I'll be your successor. My first action will be to shove my fist into your face. Even without Kitty having to repeat it, Balor's powerful declaration of war reached Kinzo's ears. Battler, I am truly looking forward to that. I can't wait to see just what a man who once threw away the Ushinomiya name has attained. Just what lot in life is reached when he appears before me. Tell him. Unfortunately, Kinzo's voice was not picked up by the receiver. Therefore, Kiryu spoke for him. It sounds like he's more than up for the challenge. Got that, Battler-kun? There's no need to hold back. You are Rudolph's son. No, you are my son. Show me something I can brag about to anyone. I leave everything in your hands. Understood, Mom. Leave the rest to me. All of us here have lost the right to inherit the position of successor. Now we're just the same as pieces taken off the game board looking on from the outside. So you'll have to fight by yourselves. Kiryu-san. The nuance of those words meant we've already given up, so forget about us. But for that very reason, I won't give up. I'll definitely crush this test or whatever and save everyone. In that case, here are his instructions for the first test. Jessica-chan's. Go to your room. Really? Go to your room? What's your game, you damn geezer? It means he means Jessica-chan's personal room. The one in the mansion. I'll hand it over to Jessica. Tell her directly for me. Jessica, here. Hello? Yes, I understand. Excuse me while I go cry forever. I'm gonna go drink some water. Holy shit. The whole "you are my son, yes mom" bit really got me. Okay. It's so sweet. Starting with me, huh? Well, I've been ready. See you later. Even Jessica was probably tempted to succumb to the fear of a girl her age. But she crushed those feelings and strengthened her resolve. Be careful, okay? We're probably being watched, right? We can't do anything we aren't told. All we can do is exactly what they say. They say that old geezer killed those 6 in the dining hall instantly, with no hesitation. So if we try to fight back, we might end up the same way. I know. I'll beat them at their own game. Don't do anything reckless. If you think you're in any danger, your own safety comes first. If Uncle Kraus finds out that his daughter sacrificed herself for him, there's no doubt that it'll tear his heart apart. It goes the other way, too. If Mom and Dad are both killed, and I'm the only one left, my heart will rip itself to pieces. Battler-kun, what you said earlier is true, right? Yeah. Kiryu-san and the others are already prepared for what will happen. Then, the way things are now is just perfect. Everyone's lives rest on our shoulders. The hostages can't do anything while they're locked up. That means we'll have to manage something ourselves. If something happens, run back to the guest house. At that time, we'll be done playing along with grandfather's game. Aniki. At that time, we'll declare war. Wherever they're locked up, we'll save them, and we'll deal with grandfather accordingly. Are you sure, Aniki?
Shannon-chan's there too.
That's why I'm saying it. I'm not sitting around and waiting for my fiancé to be killed. What scares me is not that Shannon might be killed by grandfather. I'm just worried you guys will get there first and clobber the damn geezer who made my fiancé experience terror before I do. I see.
That really does sound like a test. Like a test to see who will be the successor.
Yep. The first one to bury a fist into that old face will be the next head. George, Battler, and Jessica each forcefully nodded their heads and put their fists together. Then, Jessica headed off into her own room, as designated. Her form disappeared into the darkness of the rose garden, waving in the strong winds. Watching her go, George and Battler gripped their fists even tighter, making them quiver. This family's scary. Everyone's so intense. In this situation, it makes sense, of course. Of course. I'm still scared. Left on the second floor, Maria watched Jessica's back through the window. She wore a blank expression.
I wonder what everyone's getting so upset about. Even though when Beatrice is revived, everyone will be brought back to life.
Jessica's form was already being completely swallowed up by the darkness. At that time, the phone began to ring again. Battler and George heard it and came clamoring back, but Maria picked up the receiver right away.
Hello. Is that Maria-sama? It's me, Shannon. Would you please hand the phone to George-sama?
This time it was Shannon on the phone. And this time, the message was to tell the next person, George, where he was to go. Of course, since the time of her birth, Jessica had been raised in this mansion. The atrophied, Western-style house that the cousins called a mansion was her home. And yet, she had never understood her cousin's feelings as much as she did today. At the same time, she had never felt her own home, which she knew well, to be as alien as it seemed now. Her own room. This had once been her hideaway, the only place in this vast mansion where she could feel at peace. However, she had never felt as much pressure coming from that door as she did now.
A test, you say? What the hell could be waiting in here?
I'm not gonna find my desk and stuff all dragged around all over the place, right? She acted tough, trying to deceive herself. Trying to make herself believe that she wasn't scared of anything. Readying herself, she opened the door to her room. When she saw that, fortunately, the room didn't appear to be messed up, she relaxed. No one was there. Of course. There was nowhere for anyone to hide here. Right away, Jessica locked the door behind her. This way, the room was safe. She peeked under the bed and then the closet, but of course, no one was hiding. What the hell? She looked at the clock. It was just past 10 after 11 p.m. As her tension lessened and fatigue came back to her entire body, she realized how messed up this whole day had been. It was still about 11 at night. The plan had been for all the cousins to gather, have fun playing around, and talk animatedly about various things together into the night. Normally we would have been doing that kind of thing right now. Why has that turned into this? It's all that damn geezer's fault. How could he do that? To Mom? To everyone? She shook her head back and forth with anger and sadness. But there was no one here to direct those emotions at. Because of the lock, this room's security was guaranteed. Remembering that one more time, Jessica somehow regained her calm. If it keeps up like this and nothing happens, I want to go to the dining hall and see Mom's dead face. Even though Goda emphasized so strongly that it was gruesome and that I definitely shouldn't go to look at it. Even so, I wanted to see her face at the end. But we were warned repeatedly that stepping out of line even a little would put the hostages in danger. Could it be that locking the door was also against the rules? If I close myself up in here, I alone might be saved. But if I don't open it, it'll surely be against the rules, and Dad, Kanon-kun, Shannon, Aunt Kirie, and Dr. Nanjo will be killed. There's no way the scales will balance out between 5 lives and my own one life. Jessica tightly shut her eyes, resisting the other part of herself that said, "Isn't it okay as long as I stay alive?" Faced the door and made to unlock it. At that time, clap, clap, clap. A crisp applause rang out, making Jessica's heart leap. If the door had remained locked, it might have been in violation of the rules and harm could have come to the hostages. But despite that, your own life might be saved. However, you resisted that temptation and were about to unlock the door yourself. That bravery of yours is worthy of admiration. Who? If I, the owner of this room, searched everywhere a human could have been hiding, where did this man come from? There was nowhere for a human to hide. But could something non-human have managed it? This was supposedly my first meeting with this largely built, middle-aged man. I didn't recognize this guy, who looked like a butler and bore the crest of the one-winged eagle. A pleasure to meet you, Jessica-sama. I serve as head furniture for the master, the 27th of the 72. I am called Ronove. Ronove? Genji-san? Ah, yes. Genji is like my little brother. Or perhaps he was my true form while in this world. You might even say he was my vessel. What's this guy saying? Oh, my apologies. This is not something a human would be able to understand. Well then, let us move on to the main event. So, this is that test or whatever the damn geezer talked about? Correct. This is the test that the master has granted you, Jessica-sama. At Ronove's elegant gesture, like that of a butler ordering for a meal to be set out, many gold butterflies flew up out of nowhere. Huh? What the hell? As the cloud of gold butterflies spun around in a small twirl, they gathered in one place. Then, that golden mound disappeared like a pile of leaves blown away by a cold, wintry wind. And there lay a western envelope with a one-winged eagle crest done on it in gold leaf. With a gesture, Dronovit urged her to pick it up. Jessica timidly did so and opened the letter inside. What's this? It is an exceedingly simple test to determine whether one is qualified to become the successor. Please attend to the question written there with a fitting attitude for the successor who is supposed to support the Ushinomiya family. And tell me your answer, as well as the thoughts that led you to it. Dumbass? Shaking, Jessica looked between the paper and Donov's face several times. At that time, George, who had been called out after Jessica, could be seen in the arbor of the rose garden. If things had gone normally, he had planned to give Shannon the ring that would be proof of their engagement, here, at this time, on this day. But the woman in front of George now was not Shannon. Read it. That is Goldsmith's test for you. George picked up the Western envelope, which was on the table where he'd once had tea with Shannon, and read its contents. Perhaps its message was short. After glancing at it, George's eyes grew sharp. What is this supposed to be? It is as you see. This is the test given to you to see if you qualify to be the successor. As you ask yourself whether you truly are so qualified, answer that question. What a stupid question. That's right. It really is a stupid question. Doesn't that mean that Ushinomiya family inheritance is also something on that level in Goldsmith's eyes? George lowered his eyes to the surface of the letter once again, examining its contents. George and Jessica. While the tests given to them were slightly different, they were almost exactly the same. Among the 3 mentioned below, in order to gain 2, sacrifice 1. It's a simple 3 choices. Decide for yourself which one you will choose to abandon. If you refuse to choose, the test will be suspended. I've been given permission to kill you right here by my own hands. If you want to include even that as a choice, then there are 4 options. It's been an awful long time since I've gotten to play with a kid like you, so I can't say I'd be disappointed. Are these 3 choices only a test? Or will the consequences of my choice be carried out? Don't be so naive. The one you choose will definitely lose their life. Among the 3 mentioned below, in order to gain 2, sacrifice 1. 1. Your life. 2. Shannon's life. 3. Everyone else's lives. If you do not choose one, all of the above will be lost. Why is Shannon's name here? The second choice is the name of the one most needed and most loved by the test taker. I believe Kanon's name is written second on Jessica's test. You gave this stupid question to Jessica too? You shouldn't be worrying about Jessica, right? Right now, you are the one being tested. It really is a simple 3-choice test. Which can you throw away for the sake of the other 2? Isn't that simple? If you still can't decide, would you like me to lend you a coin? A coin. How would you choose between 3 options with something that only has 2 sides? No one would throw away their own life. So there remain 2 choices that leave you standing. Will you give up on everyone for the sake of the one you love? Or will you give up on the one person you love so that you can save as many people as possible? Either way, you should be able to find a fitting just cause. After all, this Rokanjima is now a demon island. The sentimental relationships of the human world aren't necessary here. No one will blame you. Do as your heart desires.
and ask yourself whether you're qualified to succeed at the Ushinomiya family headship. Or rather, make your decision as if you truly were the Ushinomiya family head, okay? It's a weirdly worded test for sure. One sec. Okay. Fuck you guys, mocking me like this? Jessica crumpled the letter up and threw it on the floor.
I believe your anger is quite appropriate. I also find it an exceedingly pitiful and yet truly humorous question.
How could anyone wish to die themselves? And how could anyone want to remain alive after abandoning the life of the one they love? And how could anyone massacre everyone else as long as it's good for the two of them?
No, Jessica-sama. Such a person could exist. This is Rokanjima, the demon island. It is now completely cut off from the human world and fully immersed in the spirit world like cheese fondue. Values of the human world get taken out with the trash. Someone get this man some food, he's hungry, I think. So please, rank the things you desire from the bottom of your heart. Whatever remains will become a fitting answer for you in this insane evening.
Don't fuck with me. How could I choose any of these?
If you do not choose one, all of the above will be lost. Also makes for a fine fourth option. Even choosing that should give us an amusing show. But, since that choice will result in the loss of your own life in the end, I believe it would be more wise to be pure and choose the first one, your life, so that the other two will be saved. Everything has been entrusted to your decision, Jessica-sama. Please, let me hear an answer and conviction fitting for the successor of the Ushinomiya family headship. I, Ronove, am sincerely hoping for a wonderful answer, fitting for the master's descendant who shares his blood.
Damn it.
That scene was observed through the magic crystal ball Kinzo held. Kinzo finally couldn't hold it back, and, spreading his arms and facing the heavens, began laughing in an explosive voice. What are you waiting for, foolish grandchildren? My descendants? Isn't this problem so easy that you could answer right away? Isn't this a question that should cause you to waver less than whether to put butter or jam on your morning toast? Do you people know the correct answer? He turned to face the Chiester sisters, who had been waiting on him.
No, my apologies. I don't know, Lord Goldsmith.
Fool, not choosing at all means game over. You foolish rabbit, who cannot even choose a reason or a goal for your own life. You aren't worth a single ant that anyone might step upon without even noticing. Die, be crushed, disappear faster than I can blink. And what of you?
I would sacrifice the first one, your own life, sir. Weapons fight and die in battle, and weapons exist to destroy enemies and protect allies. Being able to protect those we love and then die is our satisfaction, sir.
A truly splendid model answer for a weapon. The immediate reply is very nice. So, have you been raised to think that you'll be given an extra carrot for answering that way? That's wrong, see? Even that is wrong, see? Answering that way when you are asked is nothing more than giving the answer you have been indoctrinated with. You are the same as that other rabbit a second ago. You still live without having chosen a purpose or goal to strive for. You filth that doesn't deserve to live.
It would suit you well to be crushed and used as fodder for the other livestock. Yes, sir. Animal fodder would be an honor. And that's wrong, right? You don't want to see anyone else die anymore, right? Why can't you accept that? Accept that the depths of your old wounds are still festering and rotting. Yes, the rotting stench would make their nose wrinkle, you foolish, rotten rabbit. These are words of praise for you. Thank you very much, sir. Well then, what about you, the last one? Which of these 3 choices would you choose? Without wavering, I'd choose the second one. The second. There are not many who would stick their chest out and choose to offer the one they love as a sacrifice. Tell me your reason. Because the one you love will be lost eventually. If you don't love anyone, you won't get hurt. And if you lose someone, you might still be able to love again. So, the person you love right now isn't worth all that much, yeah. I see. That is why you reached such an answer. You rabbit who has become cowardly from pain caused by love. I have heard that rabbits can die from loneliness, but just when was it that your heart was killed? Then, rabbit, I shall alter the question. Why don't I change the second option to not the one you love, but the memories of the one you loved? How is that? Can you still select that one? What's this about the one you love not being worth much at all, foolish rabbit? Filth who cannot even face up to the depths of her own love? Try and choose it. Try and choose to have the one you loved forgotten. You can do it, right? I'll bet you can, right? Come on. Try saying that you can, okay? Yes, I can choose it. I can choose it. Lord Goldsmith, please, stop this. Enough, rabbit filth. Go to Virgilia and help keep watch on the dungeon. Disappear. The Chiester sisters, with their respective old wounds of the heart gouged out, escaped by disappearing. After that, even though there was no one to hear, Kinzo continued talking by himself as though in a play. Indeed, that is the nature of this charming test. In truth, no choice can be said to be correct. Instead, regardless of which answer they choose, it is about whether they can choose, without hesitation, quickly, with a resolute conviction in their own strong, unshakable will. It's their reason and their willpower that are most essential. That is what I want to learn. Yes, my descendants, I am truly looking forward to what kind of answer you will show me. Me. Yes, of course I once had the same question thrust upon me. Because I splendidly answered that devil's question, I was able to obtain gold and honor, and that witch as my possession. Which answer did I choose? Do you really need me to say it out loud? Well then, have you nearly decided on your answer? As Jessica stared at the letter that had been crushed and lay on the floor, she hung her head in constant silence. All that filled the room was the stir from wind and rain shaking the treetops. Regardless of how noisy that was, it actually made the stillness more apparent. Donove waited for Jessica's answer. However, Jessica didn't answer. Whether she was lost in deep thought or had stopped thinking, Donove couldn't tell. No, he might actually have known, but cruelly, like a demon,
Ronove urged Jessica to voice it. If you cannot choose any, I can at least bring you peace without pain, but...
Me.
Yes. I had trouble hearing. Could you say it again, please?
Jessica lifted her face and looked straight into Ronove's eyes. It seemed that she had decided on her answer. Kill me. Jessica said it one more time, clearly. Perhaps Ronove had imagined that this would be her answer from the very beginning. Without any surprise, he smiled lightly and nodded.
I thought you would choose that answer, Jessica-sama. Well then, there is no right or wrong answer to this test. The essential part is what thoughts led you to that answer. Come now. Please answer with a fitting attitude for the successor.
It's not like I chose the first one because I want to die. The second one was letting Kanon-kun die. Of course that was out of the question. So I excluded it. The third one was everyone else's lives. Of course that was also out of the question. So I excluded it. After that, only the first choice remained.
Process of elimination, is it? So it was not something you chose proactively. After chuckling slightly, Ronove dropped his gaze.
A human couldn't even imagine what answer a demon would have been expecting. All she could understand this was apparently slightly below Ronove's expectations.
That answer is neither bad nor good. 60%, I believe you could call it. I'm a little disappointed.
You're a pretty selfish bastard, telling me to answer with self-confidence and then being disappointed when I do.
Apparently there was more to it than process of elimination. It's a failing grade either way, but there seems to be a little more to your thoughts. Allow me to ask.
People don't want to die, so no one would want to choose the first option. People want to live in happiness and struggle as much as life will let them. So normally, the first choice should be impossible from the beginning.
However, you took that first choice. You chose to throw away your own life. Only that choice remained for you.
I tried thinking of the future that would come after choosing each one.
And what did you see?
First, I tried letting Kanon-kun die. I tried to imagine the rest of my life after having abandoned the one I loved.
What kind of life was it?
It was a horrible woman who didn't deserve to live. A shabby woman who always lamented her own decision and lived only to regret. I could never forgive a horrible woman who'd choose to live and abandon the person she loved. I put an end to her myself.
How brave. So, did you also consider the third option?
Yeah. I tried letting everyone but me and Kanon-kun die. There's no way Kanon-kun would like me if I did that. So again, even with Kanon-kun, I was forced to bear the cross of abandoning so many people. And even Kanon-kun was forced to bear it. I'm not gonna make a foolish choice that leaves Kanon-kun bearing that cross. I wouldn't be able to forgive a future me who did something like that. I put an end to that woman myself too. Jessica had pictured it in her mind. The future her beyond each of the three choices. And there were 3 Jessicas. Of the 3, 2 had regrets. Only one could hold her head high and smile at Kanon. You know, I once had the nerve to preach something to Kanon-kun. Something about trying to live life to the fullest.
Live your life to the fullest. Meaningful words. And a surprisingly difficult thing to do.
So yeah, I gotta stand proud and show Kanon-kun. Show him how to live by holding your head high and looking straight at the sun, with a full smile.
Will Karon be able to accept your self-sacrifice? Haven't you thought that your selfish decision might hurt him more than is necessary?
That's why I want to leave a message.
Oh, I will listen, but I am, after all, a demon. I may not keep my promises, you see.
Keep it. Your promise. Jessica spoke that, looking quite unconcerned. She had asked the demon who was about to take her life to pass on a message, and she didn't think at all that she would be betrayed. At that extremely innocent smile, Donovan closed his eyes lightly and shrugged his shoulders.
I see nothing wrong with that. So, what shall I tell him?
Tell Kanon-kun to live his life to the fullest. No, that's not quite it. Not Kanon-kun. Still hasn't told me his real name yet. Tell the real Kanon-kun to live his life to the fullest. Tell him that. Milady.
Jessica, you really are...
I don't know if he is fickle, so he might not have passed the message on. You certainly are fortunate to have me here showing you this scene. A musty three-sided mirror was set beyond the bars, and the scene with Jessica was reflected on it. On the next mirror, the scene with George was reflected in the same way. None of them questioned how a three-sided mirror had appeared from a group of butterflies, nor did they wonder why these scenes with Jessica and George were reflected on it. Because the reflected scenes themselves were more important.
Are you so prepared to throw your life away? For his sake?
My apologies. Kraus looked at Kanon with a complicated expression mixed in with a bitter smile. Kanon wouldn't meet his eyes. Virgilia-sama, there's no reason for Milady to throw away her life. Please kill me. Please change it to the second choice. That way, everything should resolve itself. I am not capable of granting that wish. After all, this is Jessica's own decision, which she herself chose. At that time, suddenly the air split and the Chiester sisters appeared, flying into Virgilia's chest. Virgilia-sama! So mean, Lord Goldsmith is so mean. I'm doing the best I can. Crushing me for animal father? That's just too much. Virgilia, who still didn't have a clue what was going on, was mobbed by the sobbing Chiester sisters. There, everything's alright. Don't cry. I'll make you some delicious tea. I'm leaving it up to you all to guard this place. If they do anything suspicious, inform me immediately. The goat attendants all faced each other, nodding their heads. Virgilia took the Chiester sisters and left. The sound of them going upstairs could be heard, so they had probably gone to an upper floor. This is our chance. It looks like these goat heads are morons. I wonder if we can trick them. Kitty had realized that an opportunity had arrived, but even so, she hadn't thought of a way to break the metal bars. The Jessica reflected on the three-sided mirror had her eyes closed, as though in contemplation. The way she had both hands stuck into her pockets, wanting to be defiant until the very end, might have been her own aesthetic stance. That's all I have to say. Kill me.
Understood. Well then,
Fear not, for I shall make your death more gentle and merciful than any sleep. As the Ronove raised his palm,
he slowly approached Jessica. Damn it! Ah! Gah. Realizing that his daughter was about to be killed, Kraus went half mad and repeatedly body slammed the metal bars. The goats looked like they were sneering at how a mere human didn't stand a chance at breaking those bars. Kraus's pointless efforts certainly may have been comical, but Kraus was giving it everything he had. He was now living with all he had as Jessica's father so that he could save her. Kanon made tight fists with both hands. If he used his curse power, he might be able to cut through even metal bars. But there were a full 3 goats. There was no way he could defeat 3 of them in an instant. It would instantly be reported, and then even Virgilia and the Chiester sisters would probably dash in. Even if he could break the bars, that would be the end of it. It was useless. Kanon already knew that the witch sneered at useless efforts like this, so he could do nothing but stare at Kraus's repeated body slams.
George-sama.
Shannon, who had been looking at the 3-sided mirror, raised her voice. When they looked, they could see George, who had been silent the whole time, lift his face. It seemed that George had also decided on an answer. Have you decided on your answer?
Yeah, I've decided.
Is it an unwavering answer?
Yeah, it's unwavering.
Then let me hear it.
Oh, by the way, it seems Jessica decided to take the your life option.
Surely such an indecisive person as you isn't going to choose the same answer, right?
Jessica gave her own answer. No matter which choice that was, it was Jessica's answer. It doesn't influence my answer in any way.
I see. Then let me ask again. Among the 3 mentioned below, in order to gain 2, sacrifice 1. 1. Your life. 2. Shannon's life. 3. Everyone else's lives.
Which one will you choose? Could it be the first one, like Jessica? Wrong.
Oh? Gap looked a little surprised, because she had thought this timid-looking man would obviously choose that option. Very well then. I'm glad the most boring option for me has been removed. Then, as crazy as it sounds, could it be the second option? Can you abandon Shannon's life?
You must be joking.
Why would I do that to the person I was going to give an engagement ring to tonight? How bold. Is that your answer?
That's it. My answer is
the third option. George took the third option. Everyone else's lives. Unsurprisingly, Gap hadn't imagined that he'd give an answer like that. She'd been sure that he'd choose the same one as Jessica, so she was interested in how he had reached that answer. How he had reached an answer that had surpassed the imagination of the 33rd ranked of the 72 demons. I want you to tell me the circumstances that made it possible for you to sacrifice the lives of everyone else so that you and the fiancé you love would be safe. Did you use the process of elimination, just like Jessica?
Wrong.
I clearly have no choice except this one. So, you don't care what happens as long as it's good for you? So you can sacrifice the world for the woman you love?
What are you even talking about?
What? George faced the demon as he spoke, almost as though he was disgusted.
Tonight, I plan on calling Shannon right here and giving her this ring as proof of our engagement.
There probably are quite a few people who wouldn't celebrate an engagement between me and Shannon.
I was prepared to make enemies of the entire family by announcing my engagement to her. I have been prepared since the time I came to this island. No, that's not it. Since the time I confessed that I wanted to engage her. So, you can sacrifice everything else as long as you can get married? Marriage means continuing to be your wife's ally for your whole life. At that point, I was prepared to have the entire world as my enemy for her sake. Those words, through the three-sided mirror, also reached Shannon's ears. And that determination reached her eyes. Shannon certainly had promised to be given an engagement ring tonight. Then, this incident had occurred, and she hadn't been able to receive the ring. But now, even though it wasn't in the form of a ring, Shannon had received something even greater. And as proof of that, a single tear with the same sparkle as a diamond dripped down. What a courageous answer. I see, if I really think about it, this was an easy decision for you. After all, your parents were already killed in the first twilight, right? By now, there's no one whose death would trouble you. I see, truly an easy choice. Say whatever you want. This determination and choice are mine, and mine is the successor. The sparkle in George's eyes was brilliantly sharp. For just an instant, Gap felt the same sense of threat as Kinzo's, and was slightly overwhelmed. I see. Yes, the same decision as Goldsmith. So, even with your innocent face, you will also become a terrible demon in the future. What do you know, we might get along pretty well. You will succeed the Goldsmith. Eventually, I may even be summoned and serve you. That could be surprisingly interesting. Gap had needed to change her opinion of George. This man bore a determination and resolve unimaginable from his outward appearance. And not just now, but since the very beginning. I'm prepared to inherit the headship right away. No, that's not it. You told me to think as the head in this test. So I answered based on the premise that I am the head. No, even that's not it. I thought as the head himself. I am now the head of the Ushiromiya family. Splendid to think that you'd be able to go so far. It seems you truly are one to be reckoned with. Balor's and Maria's tests remain, but I've got a good feeling that you'll pass. But only if that's your true, unexaggerated answer, you see. Do you doubt my resolve? Can you carry out the option you chose? Can you, right now, with your own hands, offer all the lives that exist on this island as sacrifices? By your own hand? I can. I've said I was prepared to do so several times. Then return to the guest house right away, and kill Battler and Maria. When that's done, I'll bring you the other hostages. Execute each of them, except Shannon, before her eyes. You can do it, right? I can't. My resolve is on a whole different level from yours. Then carry it out. Death for them all. Complete this blood-stained ceremony as the new Ushiromiya family head. Understood. I'll carry it out. I'm already the Ushiromiya family head. Yes, that's right. Stain that throne red by your own hands. You will become the king of the spirit world who controls the demons. Gap was convinced. This man truly was fitting to succeed Kinzo's madness. Blow wind, cry thunder. Celebrate the birth of the new Demon King. The Demon Island has now welcomed its new lord. In response to the demon's call, a tempest raged more and more. Then, a massive lightning bolt fell, its tearing thunder and brilliant light giving the sensation of a moment of silence. So, about the order of the murders. I get to choose that, right? Please, as you wish, your majesty. The new Demon King of Hirokanjima. As your heart desires. Well then, to start. That means the first one's gonna be you. Got a problem with that?
I'm gonna be terrible and actually end the episode here. Which, I know, big cliffhanger. However, I know, I'm sorry. I'm also not sorry. I've done it before, I'll do it again. I have cliffhangers and I know how to use them. No one's safe. There's a very long scene coming up. I would like to start with that scene next time. And you better believe I can do this. The true Demon King was me all along. It's there we go. Thank you for the save reminder. Yeah, that's it. End of episode. Next time, we're gonna find out how this all turns out. And oh boy, what an episode that's gonna be. I'm the 19th person on the island. Yes. Amazing. Yeah, no, I think this is a good stopping point. And then next week we'll have a good starting point. It's perfect. Couldn't be better. Also, reading is hard, and you know, the longer I continue, the worse it gets. I'm like, you know, hitting the limit, but that's okay. It's worth it. I hope that you enjoyed the episode. I do need my voice for stuff sometimes. I need it for next week. For what should be a wonderful episode. Yeah. And make good progress. Yeah. I hope you had a good time. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna try to get the VOD up by Saturday again. Not the VOD. The VOD's already up. The video on YouTube, I mean. So look forward to that. And then on Monday, I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. I'm gonna play a game. Don't know which yet. We'll see. It's a mystery. And then on Wednesday, more Umineko. Until then, have a great night. Have a great day. Have a great week. Thank you so much for watching. Oof, my voice. Ow. See, this is why I need to stop. Sorry about that. Yes. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. See you next time. And, have a good night. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.